Well, the NBA trade deadline came and the NBA trade deadline went, and, well, the Nuggets didn't do anything. We'll talk about why. This is Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and we're available on all platforms. Brought to you today by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. On today's show, well, the NBA trade deadline came and went, and the Nuggets did not pull off anything. We'll talk about, is that a disappointment? What could they have done? Why didn't they do anything? What's the deal with the no trades and more? And we'll also talk about practice, the re-signing Boogie Cousins on another 10-day, what the rest of the season looked like, all those types of things. We will do that as it comes here on Locked On Nuggets. Adam Mares from DMVR, Director of Content for the DMVR. You can check out his work at thedmvr.com. Here with me, Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. You can read all of my reactions to all of the trades and all of the moves and all of the things as at the Action Network app and at actionnetwork.com. All right, Adam.
I love seeing the regulars in the chat, man. This is the cool thing about doing these live now on YouTube is you see all the regulars.
And they're here to talk about how, well, not much happened. You and I heard throughout the week that they had stuff cooking. The Nuggets had things that they were working on. And on Wednesday, I checked in and I asked, are things hotter or colder? And they were warmer. And so they felt like they were making progress and on the verge. And then basically every team woke up on Thursday and had better options. And so those things fell apart. The trick here is that when you talk about these things, I'm trying to provide context of what I've been told by people close to the organization of, hey, if you're wondering, like, did you even try and do anything? Yes, they did. But it doesn't really matter because nothing happened, right? Like ultimately the Nuggets decided not to commit future assets to make a move. That's how I've read the situation. What's been your read?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a strong read on it other than what you said. You know, the team was involved, had some ideas and things that they thought maybe they had a shot at. But I think Michael Malone, as sort of a spokesperson for the team, was honest when he said, like, hey, we're always going to look to upgrade our team. There's some things maybe out there that we'd like, but we don't feel that it's necessary to do that. Whether or not they're right or wrong about that assessment, I don't know. But I do take them at face value on this one that I don't think they felt like they needed to make a trade and came up short. I think they felt like opportunistic about it and just didn't see anything materialize. One thing I'll say is you kind of get this every year. They're like, well, this team's never going to make a move. They're never going to push their. Last year, they made a giant move and it made a huge difference. So, like, how many teams made big moves today? Brooklyn and Philly and Washington and Dallas. Every other move would be categorized as pretty small or medium-ish. So the idea that Denver made a big one last year, not one this year, that's still like above par in terms of making deadline deals around the NBA.
I think the other thing is if you disrupt what you have, like if they traded a starter, that's like a major disruption.
Yeah.
If you trade a starter, you've got to know it's going to work, and you've got to know that it's going to work better than what you have now. And this to me is like the crux. The Nuggets do not know how good they are.
Yeah.
Because they had 5 games where they had the core 4 plus Barton, core 5, and they killed everyone. They destroyed. Yeah. They vanquished. They were Trogdor, burning the countryside. It was just absolute destruction. And then Murray gets hurt. And we have not seen that core 5 since. And so if you're the Nuggets, I have a hard this is a really tricky thing because if you ask me, did the Nuggets need to make a trade to improve their chances this season? Yes. But if you then ask that into, did the Nuggets need to commit future assets to improve the team this season? That question's a no. Like that to me is what it comes down to. I can tell you that this is a quote I got both inside and outside the organization. No one wanted Facu Campazzo. They asked. They tried to get him set up in a good situation.
Yeah.
There were no takers. The only way they were moving Facu Campazzo was if they attached an asset with him. So basically,
why would you do
willing
that?
to give a second rounder to move Facu Campazzo?
Yeah.
And just moving him, even to do him right, that doesn't make sense. So they need those assets in order to get better down the line. Because if you get the starters back and it doesn't work for whatever reason, or you do identify even greater, I've said this, I wrote this thing a couple weeks ago called like 5 maxims on the NBA trade deadline. And it was like rules of like how to understand what goes on. And one of the things I said was executives always are more likely to move from positions of strength than weakness. They move in situations of opportunity. If you have like last year's a good example of this, the Nuggets get on a roll, right? They get out of the bad part of the first part of the season. They get over the Jeremy Grant departure. They're rolling, like they are kicking ass. And then they trade for Aaron Gordon because it was an opportunity to add to an already good team.
Right.
Versus being like, this is not working. We are trying to, like, the bench is so bad. We got to bail it out. That's when I think GMs have a harder time because, one, the leverage works against them because other teams know that they're desperate. And two, it almost always means including future assets. And you want to use those future assets for something that's going to tangibly help and is like a good solution in the meantime. If I'm the Nuggets, given where they're at picks wise, I don't want to commit a future first round pick to get a backup wing or big. Does that make sense?
Of course. I mean, I think with Facu, it was always going to be like with him specifically, it was always going to be just like a try to do right by him, but I don't think they were ever going to pay assets to do right by him or this or that. And then with the other players, again, like it was one of those things where I do think that Denver makes a move this summer. Like I would not be surprised if Denver traded away one of the players that was rumored to be traded away. Maybe it's a JaMychal Green, maybe it's a Will Barton, maybe it's a Monte Moore, something like that. But I don't feel like they felt the pressure to do that quickly, right now or anything like that. So for me, it's not too surprising. I understand why some people might feel a little disappointed, but I don't necessarily feel that way. And I'm curious to kind of see where the Nuggets go from here.
They looked at a wing. They looked at a big. There was a combination of the two that they had talked about but fell apart. That was not an option. I also don't know if you look around the league today and you look at anybody and think, man, that guy, like that's who they should have gone to get.
I mean, I wonder like if Serge Ibaka was, you look at the guys that did get moved, they wanted a big. So I wonder if Ibaka was ever on their radar. Jalen Smith, we know they were interested in, or weren't able to kind of get a deal done. So I don't know. And then you look at the wings, Derek White, I don't think so. He's an expensive player. So I don't think he was ever on their radar. So I don't know when you look around to just see who was traded. Spencer Dinwiddie, I don't think was on their radar. So I'm not really sure. I don't really know if there was a player out there that got moved. That was one of the guys they were trying to get.
Let's see. Everyone's calling for Gary Harris. That's what everyone's calling for.
I know. Well, my thought is that everybody always is calling for, like, he was a very beloved, I think we called him Mr. Nugget for a long time there. Like, he was a very beloved Nuggets player. So I understand it. Look, do I think Gary Harris could actually make an impact on this team? I do. I actually do think so. I mean, he's like a upgrade over Austin Rivers in a lot of ways, like similar thing. He's probably going to make a little bit more of his threes, probably going to guard a little bit better. So he's an upgrade. Do I think it's going to happen? John Hollinger today in his article said that it would be beneficial to both sides. So that interesting there. But no, I don't think it's going to happen. It would probably require Denver buying out one of their players, like a Facu or something like that. I don't know that they're going to do that for Gary Harris. So I don't see it happening, even though I would be for it. It's cool.
I'm trying to read if it's possible. If he is waived by his new team, he cannot re-sign with his original team until the 1-year anniversary of the trade or until the July 1 following the end of his contract, whichever comes first.
So it's already been a year.
Yeah. Well, has it?
Well, let's put it this way: it will be by the end, within this season, it will be a year.
Yeah, by the end of the season. But he was traded on March 25th because the schedule was messed up last year.
Oh man, what a weird technicality!
Yeah.
What a weird technicality that is.
So my understanding is he can't, like, maybe I'm reading the CBA wrong, but that is my read on it. This is what I've been saying when everyone's kind of mentioned Gary. I don't know if he can come back until March 25th.
Yeah, at that point, come on, man.
I got news for you. If the Magic are going to buy him out, they're not going to wait until March 25th. And if they're going, and if he gets bought out before then, Gary Harris is not just going to go out and chill for a month. He's going to go earn. That's what he's got to do. He's got to go. Like, you have to maximize your earning as an NBA player, and he will get picked up somewhere. So, don't know if that's going to work.
How has it worked in the NBA front offices? So for him to put that, I'm wondering if there is some kind of loophole this year or language that they've amended to make this year make sense or not.
That would probably be likely. That makes sense, right? Like,
I mean, he could have just missed it too. I don't know, but
no, I mean, John's
he's a
John
guy.
is a genius at this stuff. He's actually worked in front offices, so I would expect it. But I do kind of wonder just like what the general sense is. He does fit all the categories, right? Like, everyone wants a guard wing defender. And so if you have Gary and you have Aaron, that's legitimately that's a terrifying 1-2 combo defensively if you need it, right? You can play it. Then if MPJ doesn't come back, you play Jamal, Gary, Will, Gordon, Jokic. Like, it would work.
Friend of the show, Bronco Squatch, Jake Coyne is telling me that Harris can come back, that it is possible. So he's a salary cap expert. Always have him on when we have those questions.
I trust him. I'm just I've been wondering about this. I am just reading off of CBAFAQ.com. That is all that I've been meaning to look it up for it, and I don't know what the deal is, but I guess here's my thing. The only reason I mentioned it is
some of the eligibility dates. That's what he says. So they did amend it. They truncated it. They did amend it so that it works. So we're right about the rule, but that this year it applies a little bit differently.
Well, there you go. So maybe they can get him back. So if they change those rules, that's good. I'm surprised to hear that you're a little lukewarm on Gary.
Oh, I'm not lukewarm. What I'm lukewarm on, here's what I'm lukewarm on, Matt. I'm lukewarm on there not being clarity within the roster. And I don't know that Gary Harris as a buyout candidate. I mean, you just add him to the roster, that it's like, oh, perfect. Now we know who goes here and who goes there and who finishes and this or that. That's the thing I don't know. Like, to me, does he slide in right for Austin Rivers? Does he slide in right for Bryn Forbes? Does he slide in for Bones Highland? Does he slide in? Like, this is the thing is it's not necessarily that clear, and that worries me. Like, I don't think he thinks Will Barton's spot in the starting lineup. Does he end up closing games? And are we certain that him closing games is actually an upgrade over Will Barton in all circumstances? That's what I don't quite buy. But I mean, obviously Gary Harris is the 3-and-D player you want. I just don't know if it causes some weirdness with the team that maybe people don't quite expect.
Let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk more about buyout candidates. We'll talk about Boogie Cousins coming back. We'll get to all that and more when we return on Locked On Nuggets. But first, I need to tell you about Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march to the big game this Sunday. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. It's not just football. Bet Online has up-to-the-minute info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, along with live real-time updates of current games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the new, amazing offers available for the 2022 season. Bet Online, where the game starts. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making us part of your day, making us your first listen each and every day. We really appreciate it. Make sure to check out the Trade Deadline show, which is on the Locked On NBA YouTube show. Get reaction to all those deals that happen as they came through. We will get to a few of them, I'm sure, at the end of this show. If you want that reaction, go to the Locked On NBA YouTube page and watch the Locked On NBA Trade Deadline show. So, Adam, before we get to Boogie, let's talk about some of the other options on the buyout market. Is there another player that you can identify? The one that I would probably be pushing hardest for, quite honestly. This is just the one that I think would help the absolute most. I would offer Robin Lopez whatever I could offer him.
Man, I'm with you on this. Are you kidding me? By the way, there's no question to me. Like, I'm very people know I'm lukewarm on DeMarcus Cousins. Like I think that the value he's brought is that he is a center, not that he's been a good center, but that he is a center. I think Robin Lopez would be a little bit better. And I worry significantly less about Robin Lopez in terms of like just long-term fit, in the locker room and all these different things. I do think it's noteworthy that the Nuggets have offered DeMarcus Cousins another 10-day, which to me tells me they are not fully committed to him and probably are still looking at the buyout market and other options for that spot. So to me, Robin Lopez, no brainer. I would like him significantly more than DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah, if he's available, I don't know there's already talk. I know Hollinger mentioned that it's possible that he winds up in Milwaukee, which would be a great fit for them. Chicago, I think, would be very interested in him as well. They were shopping for a backup big. Lots of teams were shopping for a backup big. Rolo's going to have a lot of choices, but I think Denver can offer a different role, a fun team, a playoff contender. Like they can offer a lot of things. So, I mean, to me, with the way that Rolo plays, with his ability to run handoffs, just like he is a really good option in all of these situations. Like
good dude too. Like I honestly think Denver could use his energy. I mean, Bones Highland brings a certain energy to this team that's needed because the Nuggets are a pretty stoic, quiet, boring team. And I think they need a guy like Robin Lopez, who to me, as a personality, is a bit of a connector. Like he makes the season more fun. And I just think they need an injection of that.
I don't think Denver's in a position to be choosing, but if they were to have to choose between, let's say, Robin Lopez and Tristan Thompson, who would you rather have?
Tristan Thompson.
Okay. Just because the athleticism and defense,
and I think he'll be more impactful in a playoff series.
Okay. Corey Joseph is another name I think is kind of interesting. I know he's a point guard, but just adding another shooter, veteran guy to run things just in case you want to keep Jamal on on a minutes restriction for a while. I wouldn't mind seeing Corey Joseph. I know that's not ideal, but I wouldn't hate to see that. I think Corey Joseph is helpful.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I'm for it just because I am enjoying the Bones Highland breakout right now. And But speaking of which, today the Nuggets had practice. Can I tell a quick story here, Matt, about practice today that I just thought was so fascinating?
Go for it.
I asked Michael Malone today, because, Bones wrote the playbook on his wrist. And we know Popeye Jones has talked about, I thought he knew more of the playbook. Like, this has been a big topic of conversation. Michael Malone came to his defense today in a really interesting way. It was maybe the most in-depth I've ever heard him talk about X's and O's. And he said, the challenge for Bones is that he's playing both the shooting guard and point guard position. So he's sort of learning the playbook twice. But more importantly, as a point guard, you don't just need to know the playbook. You need to understand why plays are called for certain circumstances, certain situations. Has Barton got a shot lately? If not, what play do you call that's likely to get him a touch or get him a shot? If the other team, or if you're in the bonus, what play do you call that's likely to put pressure on a defense that's trying hard not to foul? And when I hear that, it's way different than he doesn't know the plays. It's a lot more of a now how do you apply that as a point guard in a way that is maximizing all of it? And he talked about how he as a coach, Michael Malone, is sort of having to do double duty, helping Bones with that, like with the play calling, but that's part of the growth process. And I just thought it was such an insightful answer in terms of talking about why this might be a unique challenge for a rookie.
That's really interesting. I'm gonna have to go listen to that because I was distracted today trying to deal with the Mavericks imploding the world. A couple other names on this list. Hollinger mentions Michael Carter Williams, who had a mysterious injury and then had surgery and has never been heard from again. Wouldn't mind MCW. Think that might be a good one. Is
he healthy again?
He had ankle surgery in August and was supposed to be out a few months, and we never heard from him again.
How weird.
And then they waived him. Etuan Moore, another guy.
I will say this about Michael Carter Williams. He's long and he could guard. I really can't tell you recently, but I do know that is one of the things about him is you have some length and maybe a little bit of pick and roll defense, which is something Denver needs.
He mentioned there's a lot of Nuggets on this list, former Nuggets. One guy on this list that I think is a former Nugget. What about Wancho? You want to bring Wancho back?
Let's go. Let's get it. Come on. No.
Get Blacko and Wancho.
Is with Wancho, so did he get bought out in Utah? Is he not going to stay in Utah?
There is speculation that he will be because they acquired him mainly in the spirit of luxury tax avoidance. He's got a non-guaranteed deal for 7.5 next season.
Is Utah punting on the season, Matt? If you're a Utah player, do you feel like the team is
Yes.
the owner? Okay.
I think the Jazz came as close to punting on the season without punting on the season. It's basically, no, hey, look, if you guys can make a run, like we're super excited. We're behind you guys. We're behind you guys. If you can make a run, we're just not going to pay the tax to make you any better.
Yeah.
That was the signal from ownership. Ownership, like very clearly, the whole thing that was floating around the league was that ownership was going to decide whether or not they thought this was a championship team. And if they thought it wasn't a championship team, they were going to look to get into the tax. And that's what they did. So now look, again, this doesn't mean that you're quitting, right? You still have a team. Like the core of that team is still mostly the guys that went to the second round, could have won that series, could have gone to the conference finals. All the pieces are there. They add Rudy Gay. I think Udoka Azubuike and Eric Paschall have both been very good this season, right? And AW is a guy. So they have like the makings, but they also very clearly were like, nope, not paying the tax for this team. And that's a signal.
Yeah. I'm just so curious about Utah and how it all shakes out with them. Because that certainly seems to be the message that was sent.
Because the Clippers, on the other hand, are basically loading up for next season. Like the Clippers are very, very clearly like aiming for next season. They are loading up. Like next season, they are going to have all of the wings in all of the universe. So just as much as that, there's a whole just wait till next year vibe from some of the Nuggets parties. Not all of them, but some of them. Just keep in mind, they're not the only team that's like, hey, next year, we're coming for you. Yeah. Thoughts on DeMarcus Cousins getting another 10-day? There was a question in the comments about why he got another 10-day and not a rest of the season contract.
Well, I think we just talked about the answer. I mean, Denver would commit to him if they felt like for certain at this moment that was their guy. Hopefully you get a look at him. It's weird that it's a 10-day now because it's basically these next 4 games. So you got Boston, you got Toronto, you got Orlando, and you got Golden State. The Toronto game's interesting because it's going to be a back-to-back. Denver has a very tough game tomorrow against the Boston team that's been playing well, and then a back-to-back with travel in between going up to Toronto. So maybe that's a rest game for a Jokic, maybe not. But if nothing else, maybe it's just a limit Jokic's minutes, so you play a second center a lot more. And then Orlando and Golden State, I don't know, maybe it's the final audition before they make a call on it. Maybe they wait for this buyout market like we talked about. Money?
Yeah. The 10 days is going to be cheaper. The 10 days is going to be cheaper than signing to the rest of the season. So you save the money. Like if you sign him and he's not able to go and you have to waive him later, it's going to cost you. So the 10 days is another way to do this on the cheap. And I do think you're right that like you want to keep the roster spot open. If you look at him for another 10 days, he doesn't get any better and he's still struggling. I think, you're able to then move on. But I'll say this, we have not seen the teams guys wanting to take less to go ring chase with Denver. That hasn't been a buyout thing. So we'll see if that happens. Oh, I have one more name for you. Uncle. What about Uncle Paul?
I'll tell you what, I don't really think Denver needs him and it would be weird, but I'll take him back just to get him away from Philadelphia. It's gross. Feels wrong. I don't like it.
I understand. Yeah. Boy, people are in on Gary Harris. They miss Gary's. There's a lot of Gary Harris love in our comments on YouTube, which you can catch if you subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the thousands of subscribers as we do the march to 2,000. Okay, yeah, there are a couple other names I want to go through here before we take a break. Sorry, I want to get through a couple more. Enes Freedom?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I am throwing it out there. This is the one I actually think is probably best. If there's any way for them to get DeAndre Bembry, they should go get DeAndre Bembry.
You think?
I do. He's versatile as hell. There's a lot you can do with him.
Okay.
You have no thoughts on DeAndre Bembry?
I really don't. No, I don't really have any thoughts on him. I mean, all these guys, I've told you this, Matt. The problem is Denver actually has good guys. Like they have a lot of good players. They don't have the clarity. And all these guys that you talk about, and even a Gary Harris to me, it doesn't help that clarity. And I think that's the part that I just think is so important.
One other one. There's a possibility that Torian Prince gets waived by the Wolves. I think that'd be a pretty good one.
Yeah.
So that's a weird way of pronouncing Gary Harris, Matt. Well, Finley, that goes back all the way back to Nate Timmons. That is an old school blogger name. He used to call Gary Harris Garris over at denversmith.com. He's called him Garris. By the way, I again, we'll take a break. I just wanted to kind of mention this. I was really just amazed today when I was thinking about how Vando has become so important to the Timberwolves. And I was like, so the Nuggets gave the Wolves their most impactful defender. The Blazers got Nurkic. They almost got Jeremy Grant. The Jazz have Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Like, the Thunder are the only team that aren't, in part, Nuggets built. It's just really wild how all of Denver's guys, they literally did just draft too many good players.
Yeah. I mean, they kind of gave him Kenrich Williams, in a roundabout way. So maybe you could say that one.
Yeah, there you go, too. Let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll wrap up and talk about some of the other moves around the Western Conference. Take more of the audience questions. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, I do need to tell you about Rock Auto. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. You got the ever-increasing number of makes and models. It's impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. So why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You've got computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. You're going to save time and money when you're using Rock Auto. You can spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same auto parts at a chain store or car dealership. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and they've got everything you need from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution for your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making Locked On Nuggets your first listen each and every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. Okay, final segment here on Locked On Nuggets. I got a question for you, Adam. How the hell do you feel about what the Mavericks did today? Because that one caught us off guard.
It's kind of crazy, man. I like it for Dallas. I think it makes Dallas scary in a playoff series for Denver. I don't think those two teams are going to match up, but if they did, I'd be pretty nervous. They got a lot of guys. What does Denver struggle with? Guys that can dribble drive, right? They can't keep guys in front of them, especially when you spread them out. Well, now you've got, in addition to Luka and Jalen Brunson, you also get Dinwiddie. There's reports or rumors that maybe Goran Dragic might be a buyout candidate for them and go there as well and add another one. So to me, it makes it more difficult for Denver maybe in the short term. And everybody knows I'm famously very, 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 very low on Kristaps Porzingis. So big name, but to me, I like that move for Dallas.
I don't love it just because they tried to move Dwight Powell a million different ways at the deadline and they couldn't. And then they woke up literally, I talked to two people today that were like, yeah, we called about Porzingis 2 weeks ago and there was nothing. It was like, no, we're not interested. And then they basically just woke up today and chose violence. The Mavericks woke up today and were like, well, it's a good day to trade Kristaps Porzingis. And there he goes.
Yeah.
I am not necessarily as concerned. I think Dinwiddie's really struggled. Maybe he has a bounce back. The chemistry stuff is real. The Washington, that locker room hated him. Now, maybe that's more about the Washington locker room, but
maybe
a little concern there. What I'm hearing, there's actually a chance that Dragic does not go to Dallas based off of the fact that they're going to sign Jalen Brunson. This is also the weird thing. They've got THJ, who they tried to move and couldn't. And they just signed Dorian Finney-Smith to a 4-year, $52 million extension today. They're going to re-sign Brunson. They're going to have $100 million locked up in 5 guys who are all okay role players. And then have Luka Doncic for $35 million on top of that.
Right.
And
I don't know. I mean, the Brunson thing, we'll see. I think they'll resign. He's a good player, but it does feel like you get Spencer Dinwiddie maybe as like a little bit of a insurance policy there. So I don't know.
I mean, I'll just tell you, a lot of teams wanted Brunson. A lot, like the Knicks were like ready to go in on Brunson.
He's a good player.
And the Mavericks were like, nope, we're gonna keep him. We want to sign him. He's our guy. So that happened. The Blazers did not trade for Jeremy Grant. So no reunion, no Nuggets ghosts of Christmas past out in Portland. The Jazz add a small deal in NAW. We talked about them already. And then the Lakers don't do anything.
The Lakers, I was hoping you'd get there. It's the big one to me, man. That Lakers team, I can't believe they're as down bad as they are. I have absolutely no confidence in them bouncing back. And here they are just going to stick with it. Like, to me, I know it's crazy, but I am writing off the Lakers. I'm officially writing them off as title contenders. Can they upset somebody in the play-in? Which at this point is what it would be, an upset. If they were to make it out of the play-in, they would have to go the upset route. Maybe they do that. But are you kidding? You watch the Suns tonight. You tell me that Lakers team in the next 2 months is going to get to a point where they beat the Suns in a first-round series? Get out of here.
Yeah, that's fair. The Suns are a machine. Yeah, I mean, look, the Lakers are in 9th, and they are only 3 games up on the Pels for 10th. They're 4 up on the Blazers, and the Kings are probably going to make a push here with Sabonis. Like, it's not inconceivable the Lakers missed the postseason entirely.
It's not at all. I don't think
be,
you mean the play-in even? I think it's pretty inconceivable that they would miss the play-in. I think.
I mean, look, man, they lost to that Blazers team last night. that was an unfathomable loss.
It really was. It really was. With eyeballs on them and everything, like it's just unbelievable. But they have a 6-game lead right now on Sacramento, and that's just. It would take an epic collapse. They would need like 7 more of those types of losses to fall behind the Kings. And it's also the Kings we're talking about here.
They play the Warriors, who are coming off of a loss on Saturday night on ABC. The Lakers do.
My God.
So I saw that Justin Russo had this, that the Lakers' next 6 games are on national television.
Yeah, they are. ABC. So they got Golden State, Utah, Clippers, the Pelicans, by the way, which would be a fun one because that one's going to be, contentious. Then you got Dallas, Clippers, Golden State. I'm not lying. I'm not exaggerating here, Matt. They might be underdogs in every single game, or at the very least, it would not be shocking if they lost every single one of those. Oh my goodness.
That's wild. I think Dallas slips today.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. That's my opinion. Right. They got to win tonight. It took 51 from Luka for them to win by 8 over the Clippers at home.
Yeah, reinforcements on the way, though.
Yeah, I feel like you may not be aware of how Spencer Dinwiddie has played this season.
It's not even just him, though. It's like, and then you get Davis Bertans, who I know has not shot the ball very well this year.
Again, I'm not sure that
I know. I am aware of how bad he's been, but look, he's going to get better shots, I think.
Davis is shooting 31.9% from 3 this season.
That's rough.
And he is legitimately, I think, I'll say this, the vibes are terrible with him, and the defense is worse. Like, Bertans is like, every time I've watched a fair amount of Wizards games this season because of Wes. With contract included, it's one of the worst like assets I think in the league. The fact that I don't know who it says more about. They moved him for KP, who the Mavericks clearly didn't want, or that the Mavericks got him. Like I don't know who wins and loses that. Both of these guys are shooting 31% from 3. They will get better shots. You're right. I don't know. I'm a little skeptical. So,
and he doesn't.
I think
do
the Mavericks.
he doesn't.
I think the Nuggets were a little bit winners today, just in terms of, Utah, the Jazz don't pull off. Yeah. The Jazz don't get Harrison Barnes or Jeremy Grant or Robert Covington this week, and then the Mavericks lose. They trade Kristaps Porzingis. The Lakers don't get anybody. The Wolves don't get anybody. The Clippers get better, but the Nuggets have a little bit of a lead. So, I actually feel a little bit more confident in the Nuggets' chances of staying out of the play-in today.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I definitely hope you're right. They do have a 2-game cushion right now, but like I said, a really tough back-to-back coming up. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I will say a little bit of optimism, though. Let me inject it here. Again, at Nuggets practice, only the 3rd practice, by the way, at Ball Arena this season. So kind of crazy to think. But at practice today, and Mike, I put this on Twitter, got to see Michael Porter, who was working out, moving great. I mean, it just looked like if you didn't know better and you walked into the gym, you just thought he was one of the guys, going through a workout at the end and moving, sweating, doing all that stuff. The guy shot for 15 minutes, Matt, and I swear to God, I don't know if I saw him miss 5 different times. That guy is the most effortless shooter I've ever seen, and I was just in awe watching him today because, again, if you didn't know better and you watched him go through the workout, you would just be like, well, so what's wrong with him? He has what issue? And as somebody pointed out, I don't know if this means anything or not, so take it with a huge grain of salt, but no leg brace. Remember, he's been wearing the leg brace for every workout. No leg brace today, so
I want you to. You think he's coming back, and you've resisted saying it, and I want you to say
I'll say it. I'll say it. I think he's coming back. I think Michael Porter Jr. comes back this season. And by the way, Harrison Wind asked, credit to him, because I know Michael Malone has been asked in roundabout ways all these different times. Harrison Wind today asked him, and I thought he was going to get yelled at. Like, come on, man. Every time he's at a media scrum, he gets asked this. But he left the door open. Like, Michael Malone had not answered that question yet. He had talked around it, but he never answered it. He said, yes, there's a possibility he comes back this season. So there you have it.
Yeah. Do you think there's a chance Jamal doesn't play this season? Because everybody's really worried about how he looks.
No. I honestly think both guys come back. I will say, having watched Jamal Murray work out and I haven't seen Michael Porter do a physical workout. So it is a little bit different, but I mean, he's elevating on his jumper. He's moving. He threw a dunk down today. If I were to guess, again, this is not a doctor's opinion. I know this doesn't actually matter. I'm just trying to give perspective on what Michael Porter looks like right now. If you were to judge the two of them, you would say, man, Michael Porter actually looks better or closer. Not saying he is, just the way he looks, the way he moves.
David Walker, with his usual rave of optimism, he also said Jamal might not come back. I will just tell you, I continue to think that this is just.
Of course.
I just think this is posturing for Malone.
Watch the video, because I had people reach out to me today because I was there. I was asking the question. I was standing in front of him. People were writing me, Malone says Jamal Murray might not come back. Not the way it came out. That was not my takeaway from the scrum. He like you said, he's covering all bases here to make sure that there's no pressure on Jamal. In my opinion, that's my interpretation of it. But he was not setting the table for Jamal not to return.
Okay. Somebody asked us in the comments. I think it's important to get to. Have you seen any cool birds lately?
I did. I saw. Oh man! Right before we went live here today, I'm sitting there watching the game, and all of a sudden, all the geese on the pond just go crazy. I don't know what happened, but it was it's 11 o'clock at night, and the geese just started screaming and going nuts. So I went out there to see what was going on. Couldn't figure it out. But yes, I saw a widgeon yesterday. I'd never seen one before, an American widgeon. Very excited about that.
What is a widgeon? I do not know what a widgeon is.
It's a very handsome looking duck. A very, very, very gorgeous looking duck.
I'm sorry. Did you just use the phrase "a very handsome looking duck"? Is that we need to get DNVR shirts? We get Locked On Nuggets shirts with a very handsome looking duck on it.
I think I've got 30. I'm at 38 or 39 birds on the year, which is a very unimpressive total. But my goal was 200. I'm realizing that's way harder, difficult than I thought it would be.
Okay. Final question. Let's do predictions for the road trip. They're at Celtics Friday, at Toronto Saturday. No Monte Morris on Friday night with a concussion that he started developing symptoms last couple of days.
This is where I become the downer. I'm 0-2. Toronto is one of the hottest teams in the NBA. The Celtics, one of the hottest teams in the NBA. Back-to-back, shorthanded, your point guard. That's rough. I'm going to say 0-2.
Lose to Boston, beat Toronto. That's mine.
Man, so one thing about Toronto, no fans. When has Denver looked good this year? When they've made threes. That's the key. You make shots early, all of a sudden everything looks fantastic. You get 40 assists. So I'm curious to see if Denver shoots the ball well on that second night.
My big thing is I just don't think that the Raptors have the bigs to hang. That's their weakness. So, okay, let's go wrap it up. Sorry that we don't have more exciting news on the trade front, but that's how that goes. If there are signings, obviously we'll do an emergency pod. Otherwise, we'll be back tomorrow night after the Celtics game with the post-game show. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Hope you guys have yourselves a great weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Soak it up. Do what you can. All-Star next week, and then a break. And we'll talk to you guys again tomorrow night.